Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Rick Kutzer here with AirgunWeb, and we have Steve from ATN. Steve, how you doing, my friend?
Fantastic, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, I actually, I'm glad you reached out. I mean, Steve said, "Hey, Rick, how about let's do it live?" And I said, I just saw a post from you guys. You guys got new gear, so
Yep.
this is about perfect timing. So we're gonna jump right into it. If you guys don't know. First of all, we had some great coverage of ATM products back at Airgun Expo. And quick note, Steve, we're doing Airgun Expo. We've already started to look at the dates for 2022. Given the climate of the trade show, what's going on these
World,
days?
yeah, lots more trade shows are being canceled. Like the NRA was canceled recently, and it was a disappointment for many. But trade shows are very controversial right now, as with COVID spreading or contracting in areas or whatever the the narrative is at the moment. So it's people are trying to be careful, organizers are trying to be careful, and with due reason. You don't want people getting sick and losing their lives for whatever reason. So we want everybody safe and healthy, and the quicker we get through this pandemic, the better for everybody.
Yeah.
Get back to normal.
Yeah, I hear you. We had a lot of coverage, and we use the ATN products quite a bit on Airgun Expo. So if you guys haven't seen that footage, it's theairgunexpo.com. I also have on my YouTube channel right at the top are all the videos from the whole week are right there. We had 30 or 40 videos that we've shot, and I will tell you that we just finished editing that sort of raw live footage into some more I know succinct, fixing some audio issues.
Yeah, you guys had some great content. You guys did a great job on it. Yeah, it was very insightful, very interesting. A lot of interesting panelists with a lot of different perspectives. So it was good. It was a good job.
We're gonna have that stuff coming out here very shortly. Of kind of a recap, and then we're looking again May. The reason I bring this up now is that last week we were talking about this, Travis and I were, and by the way, Travis had a previous appointment. He was going to try and join us, but he is unavailable this evening. But we were thinking about doing a night target shooting competition with ATN Optics. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
I think that would be very fun. So
now using ballistic calculator, that's cheating.
No, we won't do that. We'll make people work for it. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, back to like the reason we're here, guys. We're here to talk with ATN. They have some great stuff. If you guys saw my recent video on the hammer, I'm getting that set up with Excite 4K Pro to be my day-night hunting rig. I've got one of your LTVs. Do I have that right? I keep getting those letters wrong. But the LTV, I'm going to be putting probably, of all things, I was thinking about a very nice CO2 rifle and using it for ratting, which I thought would be very fun. And I'm waiting to see what the Thor is going to go on. I haven't quite decided yet, but since the Thor is really great for just pure night hunting, that's I'm going to like at least here.
It's if you're doing some pest control ratting, like I've been doing in my backyard, I have decent sized property with ivy overgrowing a chain link fence, and sometimes I have unfortunately squirrels and rodents using my chain link fence as like a freeway of sorts. So I actually mounted Thor on there on a air rifle, and I got one. I knew where they were going, and I was waiting there for 10-15 minutes, and the result was good.
Well, I think the night vision stuff with the Thor is really going to be for coyote out here. I just haven't settled down on what we're going to put it on yet, but that's going to be something I got to do here very shortly. But you have some new stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I saw this picture on Facebook. And when I do the content for this and the description, let's make sure I get all your Facebook stuff, your tags, and so that we get all that. So email that to me if there's something that using or whatever, so that I add it to the text here. But you guys have a new thermal monocular.
Yes. Yeah, the Otis XLT.
All right, so let's talk about that here.
Sure. We have two versions of this. We have it in a 19 millimeter and a 25 millimeter objective. The cool thing about this is that objective actually you could focus for various distances. So you can adjust based on where the target, how far the target is. You can adjust for optimal image quality. Now, these monoculars are budget binoculars. They start at about $599 for the 2 to 8 version. The 2.5 to 10 version is $699. So very budget friendly, very affordable for a thermal piece of equipment. And it has some cool features also. It has video record, still image. There's different color palettes, not only the white hot and black hot, you have fusion and you have some other color modes. Also, you have in there a stereometric rangefinder, like our smart scopes, like the Thor 4 or the X8 4K Pro, where you line up one line on top of the target, below the target, and it gives you a good range estimate to the target. And you have a new feature in here that our other products don't have, is the heat tracker. So basically, it'll have a little cursor in the field of view following an object that emits the most amount of heat. So let's say if you are scanning and you have this active, and if it detects something that's hot, like a coyote or a hog or whatever, a possum or squirrel, that cursor will follow that heat signature everywhere in the field of view, as long as you have that target in your field of view in your monocular. So that's a cool new feature.
Hold on just real quick, because what we have going on here on YouTube, we have a lot of questions coming in.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump in, and this is going to be, I might interrupt you. Please don't take offense.
Oh, please. No, absolutely. I'm here to answer questions and help the community to understand better the product.
So Daniel, first and foremost, these are designed to go, he's asking, will they hold up the powder burners? First and foremost, these are designed for firearms. Secondarily, we use them on our air guns. So your primary focus, if I remember some of the conversations I had with you guys at last SHOT Show, which seems like a lifetime ago, but you guys really not only have this very strong foothold in the consumer firearms market, but you guys are also heavily into the military.
Yeah, we do service our various agencies in law enforcement, military. We support a lot of private military contractors, a lot of different ABC government organizations. So yes, we do. We're very strong in the consumer shooting hunting segment, and we do have a robust foothold also in the law enforcement military segment as well.
Yeah. So the point there being is that we're talking about use of your products for our hunting needs as air gunners, but your bigger market, the vast majority of your market is all powder burners, and it's high power. It's all high powered stuff. Actually,
our scopes are recoil rated to 375 H&H and 416 Barrett. If you know your calibers, those are pretty heavy calibers, basically elephant guns. They're not rated for 50 cal. You can use them on 410. You could use them on other big calibers, but not 50. And they hold recoil. They do well, and we do well with our scopes in the firearms market per se.
There you go. So that was so to answer your question, Daniel. Yeah, if you've got a firearm under the 50 cal that you're talking about, then you're good to go. Now, one of the things that you guys, and this is old news, but for me, it was the thing that made ATN usable, as when you shifted from the original X-Sight Pro, which had the integrated Weaver mount, to now your scopes are essentially a scope with built-in electronics and a battery. And the other thing, just quickly for you guys that like to go out and hunt, so the old version I used to buy the lithium AA's. It's the only way I can get any battery life out of the unit.
Or Cantellis. A lot of people started using rechargeable Cantellis that would do really well. I think there were about 3,500 milliamps. With fours, you would get about 4 to 6 hours.
But you guys have changed that dramatically. Big time.
Yeah. With the transition to the new line, this streamlined design reminds you of a traditional scope minus the control panel housing here. on the Excite LTV or the Thor 4, we use a 30 millimeter tube. When we transitioned to that really changed the marketplace. And I think the whole segment of electro-optics and smart scopes, because now you're not limited to having a platform where you only have a Weaver or Picatinny rail, like traditionally like a black rifle, like an AR platform of sorts, or some clone or variant of that. Now you can use standard 30 millimeter rings and use it on air rifles, traditional bolt action rifles, be it dovetail or with Picatinny or Weaver rails. It's opened up such a bigger segment for us in terms of how many people can now use the product because of the variety of firearms there are in the marketplaces. And traditionally speaking, glass optics, come in 30 millimeter or 1-inch tubes. So finding aftermarket rings or quick detach mounts that mount to those various platforms is not difficult. We have a great quick detach mount. There's some other great quick detach mounts available in the marketplace. There's some great companies that make quality, great rings for 30 millimeter tubes that fit on Weaver, Picatinny, or dovetail types of attachments. So the sky's the limit in terms of what you can mount our optics on.
Yeah. So I know for me that was a game changer because I had trouble getting the scope positioned well
for the eye relief, and the older scopes didn't have the eye relief that traditional scopes have. So when we did the redesign, a lot of effort took place on this piece, the eyepiece, where you look at the display screen. It was a painstaking engineering process to make sure that we have a traditional 3-inch eye relief.
Yeah.
And so that's what made it also much more comfortable to mount it on firearms and make it more comfortable for a traditional shooter hunter that's used to that 3-inch or thereof eye relief that they use, on a traditional scope.
Well, Steve, I want to let you know we got an invite here. I got the opportunity. I told you right before we went live. I'm editing my video just so you guys can see here. This some of our iguana hunt. In process of doing some more editing. We've already done a bunch, and I'm doing some more. We just got an invite from the guys from Iguana Lifestyles to go down and do some hunting. So maybe that's something we could talk about later. That would be kind of a cool trip to go down there and with the ATN Optics and actually do some hunting iguanas.
Yeah, actually, I think we work with another individual in Puerto Rico that does guided iguana hunts, and I know that our other partners, Gontac Media, have gone to Puerto Rico and have done with air rifles using our products, iguana hunts. So yeah, I encourage you to do so. It's a lot of fun. They overrun the island of Puerto Rico and they're fair game. I think also Florida has a huge problem with iguanas as well.
Yeah, these are the guys they're in Florida. We're in Fort Lauderdale, but I'm thinking we need to get you down there. So you and I we'll meet up down there in Fort Lauderdale and we'll go hunt iguanas. Question here is, will there be ATN made for just air guns, or is that not needed? I think the point is it's really not needed.
Yeah, because again, with the recoil, yes, air guns have a different type of recoil, which traditionally.
Well, on that. It's the Springers or gas ram guns. So
right,
PCPs, you're fine. If I would not mount this on a Springer.
No. Okay, we don't recommend it. Once you buy the product, it's really your prerogative, but we don't recommend it. I'm sure it'll work, really, honestly, but we don't recommend it due to various reasons because of the negative recoil of a Springer or a break barrel versus a PCP or even a crossbow. A lot of people even mount these on crossbows, and the recoil is totally different on those. So PCP are good. They're great air rifles. They're very versatile. They're a little more pricier than Springers or break barrel air rifles, but I think the optics, perform well on the PCPs. I think you could attest to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Going back to the video, I just released. Was it? When did I do it? It might have been Monday. It might have been yesterday.
The days blend in.
It all runs together. It wasn't yesterday. Yesterday was the 909. Okay, Whew, all right, so a week ago, I did the video on the hammer. And that's actually got a bit of a thump to it. That gun is not delicate, and yeah, it's not going to phase your scope. So, and that's a pretty thumpy PCP. But I've run your stuff on everything from like little Gamma, like the Urban. I know Angie's running on the Urban, all the way up to the hammer, and we've had zero problems. It's just really really good. Here's as a content creator or as a guy who likes to watch my hunts, what I love about your stuff is that it's just one little button and you've got the video going.
Yeah, simplicity. Simplicity is
oh my
key.
gosh.
People don't want to finagle with complicated menus, going through submenu upon submenu upon submenu to try to find specific feature or function. Our UI is very intuitive, very simple to understand, very simple to use. A couple of clicks and you're done. The main features and functions that people tend to use the most, we make them very accessible on the main control panel of the scope. So as you mentioned, if you want to start recording video, you hit that button, you're good to go. And you want to stop, you press that button again, and and it stops the video.
I've spent probably twice as much on stuff to try and film through my scope as it would be to just buy an X-Sight 4K Pro.
I believe it. The stuff that people would try to finagle and mount and use different mounts and special type of cameras to attach to their day scopes. Why? For the same money that you're spending for that one camera, you could have a scope that does it all, and you could use it, and you could mount it on your rifle, be it PCP air rifle or a traditional firearm, and be able to hunt, shoot, and record through it, amongst other things.
Yeah, and one of the things, like on the X-Sight 4K Pro, like not the LTV,
right?
Okay, but on the Pro, you can have different profiles, so you can actually move it from gun to gun. Recall the profile. Just you might want to verify your zero that it's still on, but
sure.
I know Angie attests to the fact that she can move hers from gun to gun to gun, and it just maintains.
Absolutely. The trick to that is knowing where you mount on the platform that you have the profile created to. You mount it in the same spot and use the same amount of torque. If you are, let's say, a slot or two off and the torque is a bit off, no scope will retain absolute zero. But if you are disciplined and how you're mounting your scope from rifle to rifle and the amount of torque you use when transitioning and swapping the scopes to various platforms, and you recall that profile, you should be on the money.
Yeah. One gentleman's talking about the update process. I'll tell you that if you're not a computer person, that can be a little bit.
It's a little bit challenging at times. We have tutorials to kind of walk you step by step how to do that. And I encourage you to go to our website. We have a robust support section, how-to videos.
Really good. It's actually your how-to videos have actually gotten really good. So I would say definitely do that. I actually had a gentleman from our Airgun Army forum said, I just can't do it. So he sent me a scope and I updated it for him and sent it back to him.
But if you buy a brand new scope, it comes from the factory updated. So you don't have to really update it. It's if you've had the scope for a while and we've released several updates, to optimize the system, to make improvements, various improvements that we do with firmware updates. We always encourage our customers to upgrade the firmware in your product, but if it's not a must, it's not a necessity. If the scope is performing well, it's not giving any trouble, there's no bugs, there's honestly no need to update firmware.
I think when you come out with new features, like I know that one of the most recent firmwares, you released a new reticle, like you have the first focal plane reticle.
Yeah, it's a smart mil-dot reticle, as you mentioned, and actually it works in two ways. So not only does it adjust, you can program the hash marks for mil or MOA adjustments, doing 1 mil, 2, 3, whatever you're comfortable with. So you can use those hash marks and use them to, engage the target. When you're zooming in, those hash marks expand and contract, and giving you a true distance between those hash marks, regardless of the magnification, because typically in a mil dot type of reticle, the mil dot is only really functional on a specific calibrated magnification. If you're zooming in, those hash marks are going to be most likely off. And typically those in traditional optics, those mil dot reticles are designed for a specific caliber. With us, you could program your specific caliber in the ballistic profile. You could have, and if you're using like the able or input the ballistic data, and let's say the range to target, it'll tell you with a teal dot where to have your holdover on that smart mil dot reticle. You don't even have to do the cross section of 2 mils left and 3 mils down or something, and that's where you hold the target. It will give you a little helping indicator where you should have the holdover.
On one of my next videos, I think my next video with the hammer is going to be actually working with the ballistics calculator, the ballistic system in the XI 4K Pro, so that I can see that gun is on at 50 and nearly dead on still at 100. That's how. That's not typical air gun,
Right.
but that one certainly is. But I am going to be working on that because I want to be able to shoot further. We did have a question, and it was a pretty good one. So, and so I've got a couple questions stacking up here. I'll try and get to. If I missed your question, I apologize. You can always email it to us, and I can get it to Steve after the fact, and we can get some answers to you guys. All right. So one of the gentlemen has asked this. He says, "What are the advantages and disadvantages of your new thermal monocular opposed to a mounted thermal sight like the Thor 4?"
Advantage, disadvantage. Well, the advantage that it's thermal. But the thing is, you have to compare apples to apples, right? Because it depends on which thermal scope you're comparing the new monocular to, right? If it's a Thor LT 160 by 120 resolution, it would be comparable to the monocular. If you have a Thor 4 in a 384 or a 640 resolution, the scope will give you a much better quality image. You will see a lot farther and better detail versus the scanner. The scanner, for $500, $600, $700, it's a budget thermal scanner. It's great for scouting, scanning, seeing, surveying the scene and seeing, a target in pitch black night conditions. So that's what it's for. It's not really there to kind of give you, that super resolution to identify the target. That's where you break up your scope with a higher res sensor, preferably, that you're using, and you could see exactly what that is that you're seeing through with the scanner, and decide to engage the target or not.
I think Angie answered the question. Angie's online here with us.
Okay.
Too. So she's
Hey, Angie.
she's fielding some questions for us. I think one of the bigger things is that if you're in a stand in a particular area with game that is very twitchy, you don't want to present a lot of movement, then being able to have something right with you versus having to swing your gun around makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's pretty much under a pound. The battery life is about around 10 hours. So it's a lot easier to hold a monocular in hand and scan versus a whole firearm or even a PCP air rifle, depending on the size of the rifle, with a mounted optics and scanning the scene. You're going to get tired. It's not safe. So having like a monocular or binocular is really something that people should be using when scanning.
Yeah. So we're going to get to the 4K binoculars here in a second, but I want to still put some more focus on the Thor there.
The Thor.
Yeah. No. The
I have everything here. It's just a table full of smorgasbord of things.
I apologize. The monocular is not a Thor, but it is.
No, it's the Otis line.
Okay.
So we have three. So we have the Otis LT, we have the Otis 4T, and we have the new Otis XLT, and they all have their purpose in the assortment of ATN, because each one of them has various resolutions and lens magnifications available. And features. The Otis 4T is like our Thor 4. It's a full featured thermal monocular. It has Wi-Fi, has Bluetooth, has a much longer battery life. You could get it in 384 or 640 resolution, variety of lenses for extended range. We have the mid-range Otis LT, where you have the choice of 160 or the 320 with 12 micron sensors. And now we have the Otis XLT, which is a more budget-friendly product with a 160 by 120 sensor. Although we are using a great quality front lens, 19 or 25 millimeter, that's adjustable, and you're not stuck with like a fixed focus thermal monocular that I know there are some in the marketplace where it's optimized for a certain distance, and anything closer or farther than that is really out of focus, and it's really hard to tell what you're looking at. With ours, you have that full range of close to far where you can adjust depending on where the target is.
Sure. One of the gentlemen here has mentioned he's been using your X-Sight for a while, and he's been having great success in his backyard. So that's very, very cool. Let's see. I've missed some questions here because they're rolling through fairly quickly. All right, so I'm not going to be able to get back to those. Sorry, you guys. If I missed it, I apologize. You can email me, and I'll do my best to just answer you directly. Okay, so one of the things,
and if you have questions, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Visit our FAQs. Our support, our website has a support tab, and we have frequently asked questions. We have how-to videos. We have other videos of various hunts, different pro staff experiences with the products in various hunting environments. So I encourage the audience to visit our website, atncorp.com, and take a look at the resources that we offer, and our YouTube. We have a ton of content on our YouTube channel as well, and our Facebook page, where you can see like real good content in terms of the product in action being used by everyday people.
Yeah. I was going to say that your Facebook page is extremely active. You have a lot of stuff going on there. Back some time ago, it might have been back when we were having the expo, availability of things like the thermals and the others was problematic. Where are you guys right now on product availability?
We're good to go. We have no issues with deliveries. We're a little bit backlogged. We've had a run on some products, but we're meeting the demand. Maybe there's a bit of a shipping delay at times, but not too long. A day or two here and there. But for all intents and purposes, pretty much everything's in stock. And we're shipping a lot of product daily.
Yeah, well, that's great. All right, so what you have there on the table, we've got the monocular. You have 3 different versions of that, and if they want to know more about that, they can go to your website, which is atncorp.com.
Yeah, this is the Otis LT. You could tell the difference in terms of size.
Yep. Okay.
They're about comparable. Just this one is made out of aluminum alloy. More robust housing. This is more of a plastic housing. So difference in pricing also. So.
All right. And then we've got the LTV, and the LTV. Oh, somebody did ask this question. Are you able to turn just the Bluetooth off?
The LTV doesn't have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. The X-Sight 4K Pro.
Yeah.
I believe in the menu there is an option to turn the Bluetooth off. Yes.
Okay, so you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Right.
You can specifically turn one off or the other.
I believe so. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken,
but
usually I'm not.
You have been fairly specific with instructions when I've had problems, and as much as I've wanted to argue with you, you have always been right. So I will say that if he says it's there, it probably is, and if you haven't found it, it probably you just haven't found it yet. Because I will say that Steve has been right every time I've had questions, and I would have sworn, I would have put money down that he would have been wrong on it, but no, he wasn't. He was right.
Hey, everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. I know the products pretty well, but there are a lot of product, a lot of functions and features. But great resource manual, our support page that we have. If you go to the product landing page, there's a link to the manual to that specific product, and you could find every function and feature of that product in our online manuals as well.
Yeah, I would say make use of their software or make use of their website. It is very, very good. All right, so before we get to the LTV and the X-Sight 4K, I was introduced to the binoculars at the expo because Angie has them, and Angie loves them. And after working with them for a little bit, I see why. I actually took those with me on my iguana hunt, and Lawrence from Gamo, he just could sit back and video and got really some video kill shots or video of the guys hunting and shooting. So those were really, really good. Not only did they work really well for spotting game, but the record functionality of those was very good. Can you tell me about some of the technical specs, battery life, resolution, that kind of stuff?
In the binoculars?
Binoculars, yeah.
Before I do that, I want to also mention something that you probably escaped you. When he was scanning and hitting targets, if you had your ballistic profile set up, and you could actually pair the binoculars to the X8 4K or Thor 4, and he could feed you the range to target to the scope automatically from the binoculars, and have your scope adjust to distance automatically, so you don't have to have any holdover. I don't know if you knew that, but that's a cool feature that our products talk to each other, at least the smart products.
I want to get Angie out, or maybe Joe, preferably Angie, because I know she'd like to go do it. But I would love for Angie and I to tag team on a coyote hunt or an iguana hunt. Would be a lot of fun too, and do that very thing. Have somebody spotting with the scopes, spotting with the binoculars, and somebody shooting, and just switch back and forth and see just how that process works, because that is pretty cool. You can actually literally have a spotter can range it, because there's a button on that on the binoculars that gives you your range. Feed that to your scope and have that automatically adjusted, almost like cheating.
It's a modern day spotter sniper scenario of sorts. But back to the binoculars. So they have about I believe a 16-hour battery life.
Yeah.
And the video recording is in 1080p. So you get full HD video recording capability day or night. It has a built-in IR illuminator, so you could use them both day and night. Has a 4K sensor, the magnification's 4x to 16x. Has a laser rangefinder up to 1,000 yards. You can record video, still images, transmit to a mobile phone via Wi-Fi. You can get accessories like our extractor remote control and pair it to it with the Bluetooth and control the functions, features. You could mount it on a tripod. It's tripod mountable, and you could look on your screen or tablet or smartphone or tablet and control with our Bluetooth remote control the binoculars, and have a little surveillance setup. Also, there's so many uses and applications for it. For our products, which is fantastic. I think it gives a lot of versatility and functionality to customers that, stretching their dollars to get the most out of the products they're buying.
When you guys transition to the integrated battery, the LiPoly, or you guys are using the lithium ion, lithium ion. When you guys transition to that, that was another transformative upgrade to the units, because now they're actually, 16 hours, and that's legitimate. That's not
that's not estimates. That's you probably get more than that.
It is amazing. I will go grab a scope that I haven't used in a period of time, pull it up, and it's still full, and I can go hunt with that all day. Come back, plug it in, and when I say hunt all day, I mean you don't have to turn it off unless you want to.
Yeah,
you can hunt a long time and always be at the ready. One of the things I really liked about the X8 4K Pro is, even if it was off, and say it's in my truck, I'm driving around and I see game, by the time I turn the scope on to the time I could take a shot is only a few seconds.
Yeah. No,
it
powers on really quickly.
It's on, I've got a reticle, and I'm recording, and I would say well under 10 seconds, but it's like right there.
Yep.
Be able to take that first shot, which to me is impressive. So again, I'll go back to the content creator side of things. The fact that I don't have to have a bunch of gear hanging off my scope,
or yourself, having a GoPro on your head or your chest, or on sticks or tripod, whatnot. I apologize. I didn't expect the sun to be setting so soon here.
Okay.
And it's like glaring on my table here. if you give me a second, I could turn the blinds on and have a little better
Yeah,
visual experience there for the audience.
I think we're okay.
Okay.
But there's nothing for me that's been more frustrating to have gone out. I remember this one day I did a whole day of hunting, and I was using a particular product, and the software was buggy, and the footage that I was counting on, I was not able to use, and that is just, that's expensive, one, because you spent that whole day of production time.
Yeah.
But I've been very pleased. I've had times where I've had to maybe hold the power button down and reset it, bring it back up, and then back in business, kind of a thing. So,
well, it's like a computer, right? You honestly, you have that's not as like a traditional scope. You have a computer that's mounted on a rifle or air rifle, and there's hardware, there's software. Things sometimes happen, and we have measures where you can reboot it, reset it, and be back up and running, pretty quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes those things happen, but with the release of firmware updates and upgrades, we see a lot less of those types of instances than in previous years even.
So we have a question. If you want to take a minute to shut your blinds to be more comfortable instead of having that right in your eyeball.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I'm going to go ahead and look at a couple other questions we had here while he does that. There was a gentleman that asked a question about using a 1:6 scope, and when you are using one power or whatever, you're seeing the muzzle of your gun. That's just going to happen. There are no rings high enough to prevent that. So that's just what it is. When you zoom in, you're changing your focal, what you see focally, to beyond the muzzle. But if you're at a 1:4 or 1:6, you're going to see the muzzle. So don't fret it. Just either zoom past it if it really bugs you, or just learn to work around it.
I'm sorry, what did I miss?
It was a question about not an ATN thing. So, but this is an ATN question. So I'll get you right. Does the ATN Otis XLT 25 millimeter monocular have the feature to communicate to the ATN Excite 4K and the 4K make the automatic adjustments?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
Okay. So if you want to communicate with your scope, you guys have two products. One is the binoculars to pair,
Right.
and the other is the laser rangefinder attachment. Right?
The Able, right?
Okay. And the Able is what I'm looking for. I have not used mine yet. I am very excited to pull that out now that we've got.
So this is the Able
through like crazy. So now Angie, I think, has used that, and so she may be able to provide some feedback for you guys on that. But yeah, from what I understood, it's basically the binoculars that can pair and feed that data, or the Able. So,
yep.
If you guys have any other questions, we're at about 7:10. So we usually go, half an hour to an hour. So we don't need to keep beating a drum that's been beat. But if you've got anything else, let's talk about let's talk about like your Thor line, because I will tell folks I love night vision. I really like thermal. Okay. So, the contrast is so dramatic. And if you're purely hunting just at night, now I'm going to ask you a technical question. Okay.
Sure.
And this is going to sort of like pay no attention to the guy behind the curtain kind of a thing. And if I'm wrong, you're the guy that's going to tell me, Rick, you're full of crap. Okay. And I will receive that grateful. Okay.
No worries.
In reality, okay, what we're dealing with all the quote night vision electronic sights are a camera that's had the IR filter removed, and you're illuminating the scene with IR light that they can then read and see.
Correction.
Okay.
There's actually an IR cut filter that falls into place.
Okay.
So there is like a little lens that drops that filters out, that allows the camera to be able to hone in on the IR light and produce the nighttime image. Just like a CCT or CMOS security camera, they have those, lights around, red glow. Most of those have a cut filter. an IR cut filter is what it's called. And that's exactly what the X84Ks have. They have an IR cut filter that goes into position once you activate night mode. So the scope understands it's nighttime conditions, and you have the best possible image.
Okay, so where I was coming from is that you could take, and I've seen people take webcams and remove an IR filter or remove something that blocks IR so that it can see IR.
Yeah.
And you're doing that sort of in reverse or some sort of
something to that effect.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. But essentially my point was it's not a starlight scope that's collecting a bunch of light.
Totally different technology, totally different principle.
Yeah.
So traditional night vision, as we call it, or I squared, there's various generations from Gen 1 to Gen 3 plus, Gen 4. And each image intensifier tube being Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, they're manufactured differently, right? So a Gen 1 is like has a photocathode, a vacuum, it has a phosphorus screen. Gen 2 has a multi-alkaline gas in it with a photocathode. The multi-alkaline gas in Gen 2 allows electrons to be multiplied a lot more, significantly, that hits the phosphorus screen, producing that image. The reason why you see in green in traditional night vision is because of the phosphorus screen. Now, the introduction of white phosphor in the image intensifier tubes have created like a new era of traditional night vision, where now people have the ability to buy night vision that has black and white image, which, depending who you talk to, for some it gives you a bit of a better, sharpness and contrast versus the green hue. For some people, the green hue makes their eyes more tired. The Gen 3 uses a gallium arsenide gas inside to even more so enhance the splitting of the electrons, and multiplying them many times to the photocathode and the micro channel plate that's also in the image intensifier tube, and then going onto the phosphorus screen and reproducing an image, where you get really high resolution. Considerably, what do you call what is high resolution?
Here's the point.
The highest resolution image intensifier tubes nowadays is maybe around 72 line pair, right? Whereas digital, you're using high-end sensors where you have like 4K or HD resolution. Yeah, they're more dependent on IR light, because traditional night vision uses starlight, ambient light, the moonlight. It's not as heavily dependent on artificial IR light like a digital scope, which, depending on environmental conditions, but more often than not, needs a lot of IR light to perform well, and to the expectations of the customer to be able to see and identify the target really well.
So yeah, and here's the difference as I've been sort of pondering the mechanics in my little brain here. But all of the traditional night vision stuff is chemically done. It's more chemically.
It's a very expensive, difficult process. That's why those image intensifier tubes, there's a small supply. There's only 2 companies in the United States that manufacture Gen 3 image intensifier tubes. Now it's Elbit and L3 Communications. Before it was Harris. Before that there was Litton. So there's only actually 2 companies in the U.S. that actually make Gen 3 image intensifier tubes for the military, and then it goes down to law enforcement, trickles down to the commercial market. So there's a very short supply of those image intensifier tubes. It's a very complex and very expensive process to make them. And that's why they're so expensive. That's why traditional night vision products like scopes or monoculars or binoculars, whatnot, they're a lot more. Entry level, a price point for a Gen 2 is like $1,000 minimum, and you're getting to Gen 3, you're jumping up to about $3,000 plus dollars. And then and depending on the configuration of the tube, the specs and all that dictates the price, because again, there is not a lot of them in the marketplace. With digital products, because of economies of scale, because some of these sensors and thermal sensors are produced not only for, let's say, our industry, they're used for a lot of things like automotive, astronomy, dental, agriculture, surveillance, just you name it. There's so many things and applications that use these chips and sensors. The economies of scales, the companies that make these, make in the millions of them. And so with economy of scale, the price, it gets reduced, and we could offer those savings to the consumers.
Now, when we transition out of that, which was where I was going here, thermal is a different animal, because where night vision, you have to illuminate for that
Right.
camera to see.
Yes.
Now you're not illuminating.
It's
light.
basically it's active.
Yes.
Whereas thermal is passive. It
Yes.
doesn't project any light.
Right.
It only absorbs the electromagnetic energy that everything produces, basically.
Heat.
A scientific term for heat, heat signature, and displays that heat signature on a digital display. In layman's terms.
So this is one of the things where I really began to understand the difference in the technology, because if you want to be as stealthy as possible, if someone else has a night vision something, they're going to see your illuminator.
Well, yes, and yes, if you have night vision and they have night vision and they activate their IR, you will see them for sure.
Yes. So, but if you have thermal, that's passive. You're not projecting anything that's going to be picked up. It's also what makes it so wonderful at range, because you're limited with a regular scope. You're limited to distance based on how much IR you can get out that's going to reflect back to the scope. With thermal, you can see for hundreds and hundreds of yards.
Right.
Theoretically.
But also theoretically, depending on the sensor and depending on the lens configuration. So the bigger the lens, and it's a special lens, right? It's not a regular glass lens. It's not, like a glass scope. It's a germanium lens. It's a rare earth mineral. They're very expensive. They're very hard to obtain, very hard to manufacture and grind and have special coating on them and it has to, kind of be in sync with the thermal sensor as well to give you that great image. And the bigger the lens and the higher the res sensor, the farther you could see.
Yeah. So I noticed such a tremendous difference when I transitioned to the Thor for using that at night. I love the day night because it's day night. I can use it during the day.
Well, the advantage of the digital day night or even traditional night vision is the ability to not just detect something, but see recognizable detail, to be able to identify more so the target than with a thermal. Thermal will give you a very good representation of the target, but it's going to be a thermal image, and details, recognizable details, are not going to be there like in a night vision device.
Yeah, it's a different scenario.
Yeah.
I did love the contrast when I went out here and I did a video of night vision. I wasn't using an ATN X8 4K Pro. I was using a different product, but night vision monocular is what it was, and the Thor. The difference, the same scene. One was you could legitimately see very clearly what you're looking at, and the other you could sort of see it, but you just didn't have the range, didn't have the detail, didn't have the definition. And this wasn't, the other product wasn't a crippled biscuit crappy. It was a nice night vision, but the thermal was just so much better. And here in Texas,
I prefer thermal for hunting.
Yeah, I mean, and if we talk about price point real quick, but I will say that thermal for daytime, at least here in Texas, it doesn't work because everything's really hot.
Well, at night things cool down.
At night it's fine.
Yeah,
but during the day,
but you are right in that point. So in a very hot environment like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, some other states where you have like terrain with a lot of rocks and the sun is super hot, what you will get sometimes when using thermal is false positives, right? And what I mean by that is you may think that there's a target out there, but it's actually a rock because it's been sitting in the sun all day baking and still retaining that heat while you're, have transitioned, into dusk, into nighttime. That's why you want to kind of observe the scene of the target to see if there's actually movement and not just you staring at a rock for a half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. We got another question here before we jump into, because I want to talk pricing before we wrap up here.
Sure.
So people get an idea of what the budget for the holidays. So if you have an ATN Excite 4K in the ABL 1000, the Able, would I typically be good getting the ATN? Okay, forgive me. I'm just going to read his question verbatim.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Would I typically be good getting the ATN Otis XLT 25, or would you recommend one of your thermal scopes? Sorry to ask so many questions. So if he's got
no problem on the questions, but you have several questions in there.
Yeah.
So if you're using the X8 4K Pro with the Able, you'll have the day-night capability, you have the laser rangefinder, and you have a full featured scope. If you're using the Otis XLT, you will probably be able to pick up targets better at night. They'll pop up like Christmas lights at night because it's thermal, right? At night, heat signatures just pop. It'll be a lot easier and faster to pick up targets with any thermal, not, Otis XLT, doesn't matter, Otis LT, Otis 4T, compared to, let's say, a digital day-night scope. Once you know where the target is, transitioning to the scope and having the night vision on and engaging target will be a lot easier. I hope I answered the question. But again, if you're, let's say, with this product, if you're trying to detect something, a couple hundred yards away, 200-300 yards away, you shouldn't have a problem detecting, targets, at those ranges. And at night, honestly, you're not going to be shooting 1,000 yards, right? Typically, most shots or average shots at night are within 100 to 150 yards. It's very rare that you see anybody shooting past even 300 yards because you got to know the terrain. You have to make sure of the backstop. If you're using a traditional rifle, black powder or whatever, PCPA rifles, you don't have that kind of worry because, your range is up to 100 yards, maybe 200, depending on, the PCPA rifle that you have. And, backstop also, you want to be careful. You don't want to shoot, into somebody's property. But, you're not going to be making those, extreme shots because the depth perception at night is a totally different animal. And if
doesn't exist, I'll just say this: depth perception at night doesn't exist in these scopes. So if you're going to be hunting, hunt on a stand with a known fixed distance. Yep. Or go where the terrain, so that tree is X yards, that rocks is X yard. If you don't have that, you better have a way to
enable. Yeah. So basically, with an Able, you'll be able to know known distance. Not know distance beforehand to target. You won't need it because you could just laser ping that target with the Able and see the range in the scope, and how far the target is, and to make a safe, ethical, clean shot. But if you don't have the Able and the terrain is new to you and you're not sure, what's what, and how far that tree is at the ridge line or a haystack or whatnot, it's going to be difficult for you. Depth perception is difficult at night.
It's not difficult, it's impossible. I'm just saying. That's why you have the
stop. It's a lot of it's experience. If you're an avid, if you've done a lot of, some hunting and shooting at night, you could gauge it.
I'm telling you. It's impossible. This one I'm going to stand firm on.
Okay.
Let me answer the question how I would say it. I think that the combination of the Excite 4K Pro with the Able on your gun with the Thermal Monocular hanging around your neck is like the best you can probably have in that scenario, because you're going to
and be budget friendly on your pocket.
Yeah,
also.
there you go. Because you're going to be able to find something quickly with the thermal, and then follow up with your day-night scope and be on it. So I think the 1-2 punch of that is absolutely the way to go. Angie's already saying, "Where's mine?" So expect an email from Angie coming up.
I already got it. I know.
Okay. So this gentleman's asking the question, and I don't understand the question. I'm going to throw it out there. Sure. So I don't know. So if we don't get your question right, email me, because I don't understand it. He's saying, which option out of 4 is true mill 1, 2, 3, 4 on mill reticle 0? I don't know what that is. So I'll throw it out there. Maybe
I think I might understand. I think he's talking about the first focal plane, mil dot reticle, and adjustments. So the question is a little bit confusing because a mil is a mil. It's a known measurable distance. What we've done is we have given the power to the user to program the distance in either mil or MOA between the hash marks in that reticle. So if you program 2 mil, so from the crosshair to the first hash mark, you will have 2 mil, and it'll be consistent throughout the dynamic zoom range. And you could count on that. If you know that sure 2 mils off, you just need to use that side hash mark to be on target. Or you could program it to 1 mil or 3 mils. It's all depending on your preference and how you want to set up that reticle. You've given the power to the user to be able to program that. So hopefully I answered your question, but the measurement will be consistent to a mil measurement or an MOA measurement, but it will depend on what you program into that reticle.
Okay. Question for you. Will you guys have an update at some point, or maybe you can ask your engineers, where the programmable reticle, I call it the first focal plane reticle, whatever, will show on recording instead of a generic?
Yeah, the thing is, because that reticle uses so much horsepower or processing power to be able to do that, because you got to think about it in this terms. Anytime you do an incremental magnification, not just, say 3x, 4x, 5x, we let you do 3.2, 3.5, 3.7. So all those changes in magnification, the processor has to instantaneously be able to make those adjustments on the fly to move those hashes to equal the proper distance. Unfortunately, the product doesn't have the processing power to also transmit that stream to record on video simultaneously while doing all those things. That's just a hardware limitation. But maybe ATN, future products, maybe we'll be able to do that.
Maybe what you could do is, instead of having the generic sort of mil dotty reticle, just have a dot, because it have something other than that ready. This is just me and my personal stuff, guys. Now I'm completely taking advantage of having Steve here. Instead of having the red sort of tree thing, maybe just have a dot.
It's just a representation of, because we have 7 or I think 8 different reticles. So when you have that menu with all those reticles, it's so you could easily pick out that's the reticle that has the mil dot functionality on the screen, and that transitions also to the video recording. Unfortunately, due to the facts that I stated just a minute ago, the scope cannot process all that data and stream simultaneously to record that dynamic reticle.
Well, I am looking for the Excite 8K Ultimate recording in RAW format output. Anyway, maybe one day, guys. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up because it has been an hour already. Very quickly, we are done. Thank you guys for all your questions. Steve, thank you for coming on. You're always welcome. When you have new products, man, just shoot me a note and we'll get you scheduled in. And I think what we're going to be doing as we roll into 2020, you guys out there, tell me if you like these live shows. I know we save them, we edit them, and we publish them on AirgunWebTV, by the way. So if you happen to miss it, we do republish these out so that everybody can see them and they stay there forever, and as long as YouTube lets us keep them there. That's a whole nother story. But I'm looking to possibly do a lot more live stuff. And if you guys like it,
absolutely.
I mean, I like doing the live shows, and I think it'll be good. Angie's saying we forgot to talk about price, so we're going to run.
Thank you, Angie.
Let's start with your monoculars, and what should people be looking at budget wise for the 3 options you have right now?
Great point. So the Otis XLT starts at $599 for the 2228. Then we transition to the Otis LT, which starts at just sub $1,000, $999. Then we get into the Otis 4T, which kind of gets up there into about $2,000.
Okay.
With the scopes, the Excite LTV, you're starting at about $599 also for the 3 to 9. The 5 to 15 is $679 if I'm not mistaken, and the Excite 4K starts at $699, and the 520 is $799. Our Thor LTs start at currently at $1,200 if I'm not mistaken, and the Excite and the Thor 4s start at $2,000, and they go up to about $4,500 for the top of the line Thor 4.
All right, and how much are the binoculars?
Binoculars are $899 for the 4Ks, and the 4Ts, the thermal version of those binoculars, if I'm not mistaken, around $2,500. I could be mistaken. It's about that, for the 384 with a 19 millimeter lens. I believe I'm correct, but I could verify that real quick on their site.
You guys can get it on the website.
Yeah.
ATNcorp.com. I mean, don't hold his feet to the fire. Go look it up, but you guys can get them. I think that if I'm thinking about the binoculars, for example, as a person who just recently was on a trip hunting and using those, I have a buddy of mine using them. Man, you talk about money well spent. Those are
they're great they're all purpose camping, hiking, hunting, really scouting, surveillance. You could do so much with them. The battery life is great on them. Video record in HD quality, laser rangefinder. You have an e-compass, can't tilt, in your field of view in the binoculars, night mode. It's all-in-one type of binocular.
We have one question. We're going to wrap it up with this because I think it's a good one. Okay. Gentleman's asking, how long is the ATN warranty? That's part A. This is like the press secretary having to deal with questions coming at her from the bullpen. What if my ATN scope breaks after warranty? Can and will they still repair it for a cost? So there's your two questions.
Okay, fantastic. So yes, we do have great warranties, and we have a great upgrade program as well. So if you have an old ATN product, I encourage you to contact us and move into a newer model, something better, something maybe like more. So our digital night vision have a 2-year warranty. Most of our thermal products have a 3-year warranty. The Otis XLT has a 2-year warranty. That's a differentiation. If your product does break after the warranty, yes, we will service it. If we can't service it, we will replace it with an equal value product for you, or we could, do something with the upgrade program for you.
Okay. I think that's pretty fair. So that's great. That's a great note to end on, guys. If you want to learn more, atncorp.com. We're going to get all this edited. We'll put the descriptions and stuff in the bottom, links and all that kind of things to stuff. So you guys have questions, reach out. I'm happy to answer them, and we'll see you guys next week here on AirgunWebTV. Steve, thank you for coming up. Stay with us. Yeah, stay with us. You and I'll chat a little bit after when we're done here. But you guys, thank you so much for